moved from Philadelphia, PA, so all the way across the country. Nothing really fit the bill until we found Bellingham. Coming to Bellingham, very, very different from what we expected, but in really good ways.
I came here once and I loved it and decided to move here. A story as old as time here in Bellingham. It's a beautiful town.
Our area is so beautiful. There's so many things about it that I love and get to experience. I'm pretty outdoorsy, so it just really kind of filled that gap for me. I'm also an artist, and so just having this culture that Bellingham brings into events and music and the arts and all of that stuff was also something that spoke really loudly.
There is such a sense of local community investment in one another, and I don't know, there was something about Bellingham and just the way that people advocate for one another and treat each other, and how much we like to uplift and amplify our local business community and just Bellingham as a whole that I really, really love.
I think this is the best place to live anywhere, so nowhere else I'd rather be.
It's just a really special place to be, you know? The nature is beautiful, the community is amazing. I found a really wonderful community both professionally and personally, and I just don't want to give it up.
I came to this community for a relationship, ended up staying after the relationship just because I have a child here, but also because I love it and I wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
Leaving here is something you take for granted, and then you realize how beautiful it is, and then you do want to come back.
A lot of it is the location. Growing up here, it just seemed like the most beautiful place on earth.
People are very willing to help you in your life and create a life and enjoy time together, and those are really important values of mine, so that really drew me to stay here.
The thing that makes me want to stay is I have family here, all of my friends are here. I have spent a lot of time investing in this community, and yeah, I would love to stick around to see the fruits of that.
Oh yeah, housing throughout Whatcom County it's an issue.
It seems like housing is like an issue that kind of works its way into conversations even when you wouldn't expect it. So I think that there's a real insecurity there, both in terms of, literal housing insecurity, but also just the feeling that people have of my parents had a house at this point, am I doing something wrong? So emotional or psychological insecurity as well. And I think we all know housing prices have gone like this, wages have gone like that. So it's not their fault, but it still feels for some people maybe they're not doing everything they can. And I think that's harmful for people to think.
There are people that are 40 and they're still I'm just gonna rent. I've had my career, but it's still not enough that I can comfortably buy a house. It's just really hard to see people so stuck like that for something that you grow up believing is just what you do. You have a house at 30, and it's I know people that have kids and they're yeah, we're just gonna live in apartments, and that's something you couldn't even imagine when you were younger.
People are keeping roommates longer and longer into their 30s and their 40s. It just makes it a lot harder when we don't have those options, and so then people feel they're priced out of the area because they can't afford to live in the community that they really want to build.
The majority of people I know are renting. Most people are single, no kids, and they are trying their best.
Housing it's a challenge in our community. We've had lots of landlords where you're paying $1,600, $2,000 a month for a one bedroom that was built in 1970, has never ever been touched since then, is basically falling apart, and the landlord refuses to do repairs.
Almost every single person I know who's my age, a little older, a little younger, really struggling to find housing that meets their needs.
The challenges that come from the housing market that we face, a lot of people are kind of stuck in rentals and are slowly working towards hopefully the opportunity to get to a place to be able to afford a home. Or on the flip side, they do, and they're house poor, as we say, right? Where all their money goes into their mortgage and maintenance of that home, and then there's not much else to return back into our economy locally.
Housing often costs 50% of what people make or more. A lot of my good friends recently who make fine wages have had to change housing situations because they're paying $2,000 a month and they don't make much more than that.
I saw a recent study that said Bellingham is one of the worst, if not the worst, housing market in the US, which is really disconcerting as someone who is so invested in this community.
There was a little article that went around amongst my friend group that was saying Bellingham got rated the 4th most expensive city to income ratio in the United States. And I didn't for a second doubt that. It certainly feels that way.
Just recently, a report done assessed it was well over 100 cities of varying sizes, and we're the most expensive, I believe, mid-sized city or small city for housing. Seattle is a ratio of, I think, 7 times the median income as the average house price. In Bellingham, it's 12. A lot of people in Bellingham and Whatcom County are like, wow, Seattle's so unaffordable. And it's like, actually, as far as housing prices, it's significantly more affordable than Bellingham, almost twice as affordable as Bellingham.
From my work, I know that 45% of our community can't make ends meet, and that's not because people are lazy, it's not because they don't want to work, it's because the cost of living is just so extreme, and that's all facets of living. But if everything is expensive, buying into that housing situation, trying to build long-term equity, trying to get to a place where you have that stable home where you can raise kids, it's really overwhelming. And it seems like in a lot of ways, there's this double standard for young people where you need to save, and you do this and do this. But oftentimes folks who are older don't understand that it's not laziness, it's not the avocado toast, it's not young people aren't working hard, it's that we're working really hard, but we just can't make ends meet because it's so expensive to get by.
Older folks that have been able to afford the luxuries of the American dream, and they think that it's that easy. You just have to work really hard. And they look at our generation and assume that we're just not working hard enough, which is super unfortunate.
We're not saving money. This is not a type of scenario we can prep for the future because everything is so expensive. But I feel so defeated because it's almost as if I'm in Seattle. Everyone knows Seattle's really expensive, but there's a lot of jobs. But if everything's so expensive here and there's not as many, it's pretty helpless feeling.
When you look at like mortgage and rental rates, we are very comparable, like not as expensive, but we're very like similar to like a Bellevue, Redmond, Seattle. But the problem is we don't have the industry here for people to be able to have salaries that can afford that at the same rate.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't see their income going up at a pace that matches housing, and I think that even extends to rental housing. A lot of people are seeing their yearly rent, monthly rent going up faster than they can afford it. Their take-home pay is less and less every year just because their rent outpaces their income.
First of all, there's like really not that many jobs in town in general, and if even the people that have good, consistent jobs and are getting paid pretty well for the work that they do aren't able to afford housing, then like who is it going to be?
I have 3 younger siblings that have all chosen career paths that are public services, essentially. I see the dedication they put into that, and those career choices are great. They educate our children, they take care of our loved ones, super important for our community. But we also know that there's sacrifices that come along with those types of career choices, and I would like to live in a community where you don't have to make a choice between serving your community and achieving the American dream of home ownership. And right now it seems like it's kind of one or the other.
If the housing cost can't come down, raising that median wage so that it isn't such an insurmountable hill for young people to imagine themselves having that house.
It's been something that I know everyone our age is constantly thinking about, is like, can I afford to stay here? Can I have kids here or not? I mean, just thinking even more holistically, like when you lose the young people, you're not gonna have more kids that are being raised in the area, right? If Bellingham gets hollowed out at the bottom, the entire system collapses.
I picked a career that has a master's degree that is so stable. There's something about that that should speak to stability and lack of helplessness and trajectory. And same with my partner being a lawyer. There's something about that that's stable, work forever, like trajectory of anti-helplessness. And yet, we just don't feel it. And it's very saturated into my age group of not having kids, not wanting to do that, not being able to, not feeling like it's, not like they don't want to, but more of like they don't feel it's responsible.
Some of our friends are talking about like, I don't know, getting a house isn't realistic, and I'm wondering if I should even have kids because I really want them, but can I afford to give them the life that they deserve? And that's something I've heard many times and something I've wondered myself.
There's a lot of people I know that like want to have families and honestly have said they probably won't until they know they could afford more than they can now, and they don't see that path right now. So yeah, I would say I do think it's a driver of people to not want to have kids because of the cost of living.
I'm specifically thinking of a few people who have told me, that they're like, I'm not gonna have kids anytime soon. I can't afford it. If I do, I'm gonna move back closer to my family.
Seeing kind of the difference in lifestyle is really interesting for kids that grow up in apartments versus in homes. And in homes, it's just, you feel so secure. and you own it and your whole life just feels very secure. You feel much more settled. You know what's happening with that house. It's your home. But in an apartment, they could decide not to renew your lease. They could decide that they need to renovate and they're gonna pass it on to other people. And so you have kids that are being upended, they're moving and they don't feel settled. And that can have a real effect on the mental health and the stress levels they have growing up. And it affects the parent stress level, which has an effect on the childhood as well.
Childcare in Whatcom County is more expensive than tuition at Western for a year. That takes a huge toll. From that, the prospect of having kids, different things like that when you're not in a stable spot is really, really overwhelming. And I've seen it affect me, my stress, other people in my situation, and it's exhausting.
United Way dropped their 2025 ALICE report just earlier this year. For a family to be financially stable with children, if you're not factoring in the cost of childcare, costs $151,000 a year. And that's like, all you're doing is you're covering the bare minimum expenses, and then you have 10% a month to put into savings. That's all it is, and that's $151,000 a year in Bellingham. And that would have to be on a single income because it doesn't cover the cost of childcare. If you talk about covering the cost of childcare, it's over $190,000 a year to have 2 kids in Bellingham. The median income in Bellingham is $58,000 a year. It is nowhere close to like what you actually have to make to even be able to like have a family in Bellingham. I don't know how to get a job in Bellingham that pays me $150,000 a year, or like for my wife and I to get jobs that pay us like almost $100,000 a year. Like that, yeah, I don't know how.
There's a lot of people in my life right now that are looking at jobs outside of Bellingham because they got laid off. They're desperate and they're looking at Colorado, California, anywhere they can.
I see people leave Bellingham because of how expensive it is. And I would say what's tied to that, of course, is that also it can be hard to find work where you could afford that much of an expense.
I've seen people that are like, well, I can't afford to live here. People that I've grown up with that are like, I'm gonna move to Seattle or a surrounding area or a completely different state because they're like, it doesn't make sense for me to stay here and keep like paying this cost of living.
I've just seen a lot of people, I guess, give up on their dreams because of that. They're not able to really do what they want here in Bellingham, and they think that they have to do that somewhere else. And so they're gonna try their best to be here, but they're just not gonna be able to follow their dreams and do what they want.
I've already had a significant number of friends leave because they wanted to buy a house and they couldn't afford to here. They wanted to have kids and they couldn't afford to here. It's quite a significant number of people that have left. A lot of people I grew up with no longer live here for those reasons. It hurts our community deeply because, I mean, those are people that have been connected to and invested in our community since they were born. And to lose those people is really, really challenging for the health of our community.
The biggest thing that would take me from Bellingham is if I felt like I couldn't afford to buy a house and raise a family here. I definitely would consider moving.
I have friends that would love to move to Bellingham or are very interested in moving to the Pacific Northwest, and they're looking at Bellingham as a potential place to settle down. I've been turning people away. Like, I don't think this is right.
It's really unsustainable for young people to be expected to meet these milestones in life while cost of living just isn't making that actually accessible.
Definitely people in my life want to be homeowners and want to have families. I would say most of the people my age don't think that they'll be able to buy a house.
I think owning a home is really, it's a way of being planted in the community, right? It's a sign that you are committed to this community and to sticking with this community.
I would love a house, a small house, anything. Some sort of ownership. Hell, I'd take a condo. There's something about that I just think is important for the direction I want, and to have kids. I mean, I want to have children and have them be in a place that they know is going to be their home and not something that is going to be moved around. And I had the lovely privilege of growing up in a house that was my whole childhood, and that was so lovely to know where home was.
Would love to have a garden and a yard. Those are some things that I grew up with in my home in Linden, and being able to, run around and have a place where I could, have a dog. Having a dog in a one-bedroom apartment just doesn't seem fair. Additionally, it's an asset, and when you're renting, you're not building any sort of equity. There's no asset involved there. I would like to own a home so that I could, establish my roots here with a family, but also, be able to build my economic footprint in that way.
Hopefully afford to continue to live here forever, and actually be like actually have pride of ownership in Bellingham, which I think is extremely important. I think Bellingham overlooks the idea of pride of ownership. For example, my neighborhood, quote unquote, the worst neighborhood in Bellingham, I think that has a lot to do with the pride of ownership in that neighborhood. It's a very renting heavy neighborhood where folks lack infrastructure. There's like no sidewalks, it floods, it's kind of nasty, and there is crime. But I also think a lot of that has to do with the fact that everybody rents there and nobody really gives a shit to keep it up as a neighborhood.
I've built my home here. This is where I want to settle down. This is where I want to raise kids, and having the prospect of continuously being poor, and not as a status symbol, but just as a fact of life, knowing that my children might have to suffer because there's going to be an issue if, I'm going to have to either raise them in a tiny apartment, or I'm going to have to give up the dream of having a home, and being able to cultivate what that means is devastating.
Bellingham isn't just for rich people, and it shouldn't be just for rich people. Anyone should be able to live here and be able to experience the beauty that's here. So if someone is, maybe similar to me, like a single mom who wants to live here, they should be able to do that and not have to go somewhere else where it's easier. If they love Bellingham, they should be able to invest in this community.
We want to be doing these incredible things like building the new jail or allocating more land to parks and doing wetland conservation efforts and all of this stuff. And it's really, really incredible stuff. But if we want to keep doing those incredible things as a community and making Bellingham a community that people want to live in, we have to think about the fact that we need to have a solid tax base in order to do that.
There's a reason people come here, and I want to be protective of those things too. But if being so protective of this beauty means that no one can live here, then I will leave. Which is a shame, because that is not what I want. Again, I was born here. I want to die here. That was the goal.
I would say to our city and county leaders, we need more housing. We need to have affordable places to live. You're going to lose your entire younger generation if you do not provide them with jobs that pay well enough for them to have family and affordable housing. If we don't give the younger generation those two things, they don't want to leave. You're forcing them out.
City leaders are at kind of a crossroads. Almost all of them have run on housing affordability for the last few cycles at least. And I can just say from our perspective, my generation's perspective, it has not gotten better in a tangible way. And so I think the danger is if something doesn't change, you would have a generation that kind of loses its faith in the democratic system. So something's got to give. It's going to be housing prices or a generation's faith in democracy, and so that's kind of a scary choice for elected officials. And so I just pray that they can do the right thing and make an impact that is noticeable for people our age.
I know that a lot of our community, these young professionals, 25 to 40, they feel the weight of this. They feel the weight of the financial challenges, they feel the weight of the housing market, but they also feel the weight of this is going to fall on us eventually. And that's kind of a lot to carry and anticipate. And so I think where our older generations can come in is not just looking at us, well, you guys will solve this in 10 years, but how can you support us in now and making sure that we can provide that.
Don't underestimate the younger voices in our professional community here. We are the ones that are going to be coming up and stepping into those positions of leadership. The people that would be considered young professionals that are growing and working here in Whatcom County do want to build their community into the space that they want it to be. And I think sometimes it's easy to discount younger voices just because we don't have as much experience in the world. But I think a lot of us know what we want, and we want to be able to have access to the tools and the support to make that happen.
Please help. If you want there to be people that are there to serve the community, and if you want this to be a thriving community with families and people that are opening small businesses and can be a good place to live, then things will obviously have to change.
You have to pay attention. You have to make it affordable for everybody, or it's just gonna spiral. It always does.
It's tough. These things go beyond Whatcom County. So Whatcom County is an interesting example of it because it just hasn't quite grown to match the people that want to live here. The people who are living here are really feeling that and feeling a little betrayed, and so they're going. So I want to speak, with a lot of gratitude to the people who are trying to make changes that might be felt in a while, and I hope it matters and it has the impact that they want for the people then. I hope I'm one of them.
If we don't fix things now, oh my God, wow, it's gonna make me emotional. I don't think that Bellingham will be a sustainable place for most people to live. It's so frustrating because we want people invested in this community. And like, I'm someone who wants to be here and care. And it won't be possible because I won't be able to buy the house. I won't be able to raise my daughter here, and I'll have to move somewhere else. I mean, I could move to Florida tomorrow and be with my family and it'd be cheaper and easier, but I don't want to. I choose Bellingham every day.